and often how empty and hollow you are. And, you know, even if the facade's great, it's like, what the fuck happened? If you are K, please note, I said if you are K.
Yes.
For your international global audience.
So Heather, when we start these calls, you never know where it's going to go. So I've got a question for you. I didn't think I'd ask you this, but given that we're on the intimate relationships here, embrace yourself. So when you're like for yourself, for instance, so you're looking for a partner for yourself, I imagine they can be really dangerous because you've got so much knowledge here. So how do you? You can strip it away and make it all really basic and say, oh, well, yeah, look, there's a good connection with this person. They're fun and everything. Or do you say, nah, you're just not, your design is I'm this, you're a generator or I don't know, projector or whatever your terminology is. And you just keep away from me because we're never going to be good together.
Look,
because you're a generator, and when it gets to the bedroom, you're going to be planning out a schedule and all the maneuvers and all this kind of stuff. And you know, I can't work with a plan, and so I'm not going with that. I'm just going freaky from the start, and you can catch up. But if that plan, and you've got a whiteboard in the bedroom, that's just not for me. I don't know. I'm just putting it out there. How you go about it, because now I'm scared to even you know, get back into a relationship now. It's way too complex.
Oh God, that is gold. Thank you so much. That is so exquisite. So I just love it. So one of the funny things when I learned about my design was that I'm supposed to sleep alone. I was like, oh, what? And then it was like, you know, you're a bit of a
Why?
lone.
What does that mean?
Pardon?
You're not going to get it. What does that mean? Because you're not going to get a good sleep, or?
Yeah, well, some people have larger energies. Some people have very penetrating energies. Some people have very enveloping energies. And then there are people who are designed to literally be in their own energy.
Okay, so I'm a guy and stupid. Does that mean that the one that wants to be enveloped wants to wrap themselves around you and you're going to overheat? Or what? What's going on here?
Well, generator energies like you, I mean, you need your alone time, but the generator energy sort of does wrap itself around people. It's just, and it's not you, it's just an energy type. And so again, there's a uniqueness of like 46 million variables in there. But I must admit, you know, I have the gates of sexuality, and lots of that. So, and I was really disconnected. So I was 57 and I started exploring sexuality as what it was for a woman and exploring archetypes. Everyone else is 20
now.
Everyone else is like 20 and voluptuous, and I'm like 57, you know, the grandmother, and going, oh, okay. But I've explored tantra with men and women, and I've done awakening men courses to understand a man to the best of my ability as a woman, and seen and then there are the courses where men do awakening women, and I just see how incredibly misunderstood we all are. And so if you want to open up a woman, then you need to start with her heart, to open her body up, to have sexual experiences. Whereas with a man, it's open up his masculinity, it's open up his sexual energy, and then you will get to his heart. So when I heard that, I was just like, oh, fuck, how wrong do we get it? How wrong, you know, we want the man to open your heart. Why won't you open your heart? And it's like, oh, you know, we don't even often give them a chance to open because we're just like direct to that. Whereas even understanding that stuff just starts to shift. And then a lot of us, and when I say us, because it's the vast majority of people in the world, you know, we often want someone else to fulfill us. We go through that phase of like, we need someone else to fulfill us. The reality is like, we got to do that from ourselves. And then when we come from that empty cup, then you get together and play. That's a whole other level. But if you're looking for that external source, that lover, that partner to satisfy you, if you're looking from that external source to fulfill you, it ain't never going to happen. because it happens from ourselves, and then you co-create from that place. That is exquisite. In my last few years, I realized I have sessions with people around business and life strategy. That's my thing.
Thanks for clarifying.
Yeah. And one of the exquisite things, though, over time, I realized it is the intimacy of those sessions. One of my clients was like, I've spent so much money doing other processes with people. And today, this process that we just went through around his business, he's like, when it finished, like the intimacy, the depth that we went to, the connection, he's like, wow, that feels more powerful than sex. And so one of the things with the gates of intimacy, people often think it is the act of sex that is the intimacy.
No.
That the discussions that we have, that the places that we go, the afterglow of having them, because that's what he was saying. He's like, oh, wow, I'm just bathing in this afterglow of, what people often think comes from having sex. So then that exploration of like, what is sexual? What is sexual is what's alive in you. What feels, we turned that off so many times and it still doesn't work.
You're so popular. They're listening right now, wanting to talk about your gateways of sexuality.
But that's the crazy thing, that often, and especially earlier on, we think of sexuality as being, of being that physicality. But it can be so much more. And this person I'm coaching in India last night, talking about the orgasms that she has just by being and just by existing. It has nothing to do with being with a lover. It has nothing to do with the physical touch. And so there's a so much bigger exploration for those who want to explore it. And then there are people who are simply not sexual, and intimacy is not their thing, or it is, and they just shut it down because of the choices they've made. I mean, in my younger years, I had close encounters of the worst kind. I would wake up thinking, what are you even doing here? And then would beat myself up incredibly for doing that. And yet I have many other friends of that same era and same vintage who've only ever had one lover.
Yeah.
And yeah, there's such a variance that the deeper that you know yourself and what you need and what works for you, and most people don't explore themselves. And then, they get together with someone to start to have some intimacy, and it's like, what do you need? And it's like, what? What do you enjoy? And it's like, yeah, I don't know. And they can't even speak. Well, hey, I need this, move a little to the left, move a little to the right, do this. And one of the girls that I was coaching a few years ago, I said, what's your love like? And she said, oh, it's brilliant. I'm with this Brazilian. He's 10 years younger than me, and he's hot, and, it's just fantastic. And it's just like, oh. And I was like, oh, great. So can you ask him for what you need? And she went, what? I'm like, do you give him any directions? She's like, what? And I was like, so it's really, really fulfilling that you never ask for what you need. You never tell him what works. You never tell him what doesn't work. And she's like, no. And I'm like, but you're really having great sex. And she was like, oh, yeah, maybe.
Your coaching sessions sound a little bit more exciting than mine, I'm just saying. But that might be a nice segue into this part, maybe to close out today's discussion. I can see that another disempowering relationship can be obviously one that you have with yourself. And we're talking about relationships and intimacy and so forth. But one of the things that, because I'm single, 52 years old, and the societal and client pressure that I get because of that, and the assumption that I must be very lonely and unhappy, and if I don't get a partner, I will ultimately be alone and unhappy. And I just love how people like to put their perceptions, onto you. And I say, actually, I've never been more happy. You know, I'm living a great life. You know, you might see me as being unhappy, but I'm not. I'm not alone at all.
Yeah.
I enjoy my space when I get it, because I'm coaching so much and doing so much of that. I need my space to recover so that I can keep doing what I'm doing. So, but I can see that for some people, and I've got a young guy, for instance, at the moment. He's 23, I think. And he sounds like he's a 45-year-old guy that his life is over because he's not with someone.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And so I can see how, you know, society seems to imply that we should be together. And look, I get that life can be better shared with others and sharing experiences with others. And I enjoy sharing experiences with my girls. So I get it. But doing it with an intimate partner as a whole other level of excitement. But I'm just interested in your perspective on this and how we could help people that are out there feeling maybe the same things as me, and they don't necessarily have a great relationship with themselves.
Yeah. And look, just so you know, the vast majority of people on this planet have a shit relationship with themselves. They really do. And it might be good on some levels, but you know, it takes courage and vulnerability and brave to really look in the mirror. And for me, like, I'm the world champion. I was the fit, and, you know, the best my body would ever look. And I could never look in the mirror. I'm like, oh, you know, have the lights on? Seriously? Like, no way. I couldn't do any of that. So it is quite the journey. Again, a lot of my clients in my previous role as a podiatrist, some of them I had for 35 years and 8 months. So I literally went from my 20s to my 50s with them. And without permission, and that's the thing, if you don't have permission, shut up.
Yeah.
The time. And you know, the things that they would say to me, you know, because I was a single mom, then I was a single person, and then it was like, you know, how dare I work when I was a mother and leave my kids in daycare, and, you know, how hard it must be being a single parent, and like all these expectations and stuff like that. And again, if I look back at, I've spent the vast majority of my adult life on my own. Now, I've had some amazing highs and some very deep lows because I wasn't true to myself. That even though I have those gates of sexuality, like right now, my focus is not around having a lover. And like, if someone comes along and that energy there, and then, you know, I feel to explore, then absolutely. But there are times in our life where our focus is not that. Our focus is on something else. And the societal expectations that you're going to be miserable because you're not with someone is just rubbish. And there definitely are some people who are, but for others, it's like, no, you know, I want my space, and I need my space, and the connections and the aliveness and that intimacy. You know, just when I have a conversation with you, Rob, and we go deep and we go fast, I mean, that feels so joyous for me that it's like, oh yeah, do I need something physical? Not necessarily. And there are other people who, even if we look at the six love languages, because one is distance, that we need that space. And so again, for you, you need that distance, you need that space. But if physical touch is like one of your highest love languages, and one, you're not touching yourself, let alone someone else, then life is not going to be so good for that deeply kinesthetic person who needs that, you know, who touches their thing. So I remember one of my clients, Jean, I met her when she was 72 and I was 20 something, and I wasn't having any conversations about sexuality back then. Well, we were, but I wasn't part of it in a way. And she's like, I'm 72. And I'm like, I know. And she'd go dancing and stuff. And she's like, I have an itch and I have no one to scratch it. And that's just awful. And I was like, I remember being like, okay. And at 92, she still had a libido, was still sexual. and was still very frustrated that she didn't have a lover.
Yeah.
So that, you know, even that thing of, you know, you dry up when you get old, you know, women, there's a whole thing, you know, you dry up when you get old and whatever. No. And men, you know, you lose your whatever. If you're disconnected deeply from the core of who you are, absolutely.
Yeah.
And other than that, no, it's rubbish. It's rubbish. But again, the intimacy just comes in different forms.
Yeah. 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 I see that. Yeah. It's very interesting, isn't it? I see that once you start to become a really great communicator with yourself, and you are, you know, being honest with yourself, and you are looking in the mirror holding that virtual mirror up to yourself and saying, well, yeah, these are the things that I need. I love studying relationships and, you know, learning more about how to communicate better, obviously for becoming a better coach, but I guess becoming the best coach for myself first and for my kids, and, you know, moving forward with that. But I think I see so much in my clients' relationships. I see so much in them. I see a lot of pain. I think our intimate relationships just have such a powerful impact on, geez, that phone they really want those gateways open.
I've turned the sound off, and so apologies, listeners, for that.
Okay. That's okay. See, I'm a generator. I would have planned to have the phone switched off before.
Well, see, if I have that switched off, I don't have Wi-Fi.
Yes.
I don't. We don't get to talk. But you know, I turned the volume down, but for somehow it keeps turning itself up. So.
Yeah, I get that. But yeah, this whole concept of these intimate relationships and just the deep and powerful impacts that they have on us is, you know, I just see people that are immobilized from achieving the things that they really want to achieve, because it just causes them so much frustration. I mean, a lot of the work that I do is on people's health and wellness and physically changing their bodies. And I've got clients right now that will probably never change. And to achieve those goals because of all the pain and everything they hold within themselves. And it's like they're 12 years old and don't, like, emotionally, and will never talk about all the things that you've been talking about to, you know, get out what they need, what they want, and just have an honest conversation with themselves and then their partner. So
it's just so important. And even about 2 years ago, I think it is now, I had a double knee replacement, and at the same time, which was very intense. And I can look back at a lot of my physical ailments, for want of a better word, that it all had to do with, again, not having flow in my life, not being open in my life, not having those conversations in my life. And as I have, I mean, it was perhaps a couple of months ago, I actually, at 62, I was jogging. Now, I haven't been able to jog for several decades. The pain was just too intense. So even with the pain that we hold in our body and the things that we think we can't do, and then we attach story, you know, I'll never be able to run again, I'll never be able to do this. I mean, I've had shoulder surgery, knee surgery, ankle surgery, but my body is more alive and more flow even in my 60s than I had in my 40s and my 50s. It was like every step hurt back then. So even for those people who think, oh, you know, I can't do this because of my back, you know, I might just say rubbish, or I can't do this because of my shoulder, or I can't do this. It is finding the things that are stuck inside your body, as Rob says, that are actually stopping that movement from happening, because then we just it's like our whole body gets constipated, and it just, everything, just nothing moves. And then it's like, okay, again, the courage and the vulnerability to have the conversation, and then just watch the movement start to occur, rather than that robotic, oh, everything, you know, everything hurts. And, you know, if you're a plan, if you're if you're a different design, then do what works, totally for you. And then if you understand someone else's, the way they work, without judgment, it's just like, oh, you're different, so are you. Oh, and you're different, because there is no one else on the planet the same as you.
Yeah.
No one, and there never will be, who's had your experience, your lived perspective, your deep wisdom and knowing of yourself. So it's like, give yourself a break and just, play a little, because play creates creativity, play creates flow.
Yeah. And I think maybe just in closing, because I'm just conscious of the time and we're just going to keep going on for hours here. We might have to divide this one up into two podcasts, I think. With the, we become so sensitive about how we feel if we portray anything. Like in a workplace, we can be scared, oh, I'm scared to tell you this, Heather, because of what you might say to me. Now, when it comes to intimacy, then that's a whole other level of sensitivity. And, somebody can say the wrong thing and you just think, well, here I am, I've just opened up to you, you've responded that way, and then now I feel like crap, so I'm never saying anything again. These lights are never going on. I'm going to have a chastity belt and a suit of armor on when I go to bed each night now, because you're not seeing me or touching me. But if you, I think when you're in the right relationship, this is where I think that you're in a really good place, where you feel like you can ask for anything, you can do anything that's not breaking the law, and that's okay. And when you're in that place and you feel safe to be able to do that, and you do have a soft place to land, and you just feel like, do you know what, I could ask for anything. Right here, it's not hurting anyone, because I just feel really safe with this person to be able to do that. And then it's like a seed turning into a beautiful flower that just opens up, and it's like, wow, you just don't know what you are missing out on by not having the courage to dig deep into some of these areas within yourself first. But you got to get yourself right first. Because another person that is like that is probably going to come along and scare the living pants off you if you are not meeting, that. And it shouldn't be like, I don't think it should be like, okay, I'm here, you're here, we've just met, bang, it's going to be all magic. You got to build it like anything. I like what Dr. Phil says. Find the partner where it's like 80%, 80% compatible, build the 20.
Yeah. And I think
it's in the 20.
Yeah, I love that. And then the thing is, look at the non-negotiables. So when I went, and I love everything you've said there, I'm in total agreement. And I remember back in the olden days, I went to a dating agency and you had to fill out forms and then they'd match you, unlike today. Oh, is this a match? And, they would ring and they'd say, we've got a match. And, but he's a smoker. And I'd say no. And they're like, well, you can't necessarily have it all. You've got to be able to negotiate, and, you've got to be able to, and I'm like, no. And then they'd come back and they, the next one, he's a smoker. And I was like, no, which bit do you not get? It's non-negotiable.
Yeah.
It's a non-negotiable. I am not spending time with someone who smokes. If they want to smoke, that's fine. I just won't be in their company. And I think that's the thing. If you look at your non-negotiables, it's like, no, I will not spend time with a gambler.
Yeah.
You got to work out what your definition of gambling, buying a Sexuality ticket, maybe that's a gambler, I don't know. But it's like, what are your non-negotiables? And then if you've got that, then that's, this, and then it's like, okay, he drinks 3 times a week, I drink 1 time a week. Okay, can we figure that? He wants sex 10 times a week and I want it 20 times a week. Can we work with that? He wants a joint bank account. I don't want to work. And I'm saying here, because I am heterosexual. I'm aware not everyone is. So whether it's a he, she, or they, it's like, what are those fundamentals that are not non-negotiable from the start? And then it's like, we have 90% non-negotiables, but I still want to play and have some fun. Okay, go and play and have some fun. Chances are you're not going to build a life together.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh, you know, I want to experience you. Okay, go and experience them. But if you're starting with like 95% incompatibility and you're caught up in the lust mode, yeah, probably not going to work so well.
Yeah. That's a good way of looking at it. Heather, it's been great having a conversation with you. Perhaps remind people, if they want to reach out to you, get in touch with you for your business and life strategy and gateways of sexuality understanding. I think that's what I might call this podcast, Gateways of Sexuality. How can they do that?
The easiest way, because my life is very simple, is send me a message on Facebook Messenger. Even if we're not connected there, I check my spam regularly, and then you would have to give reference to Rob Evans, a podcast, Gates of Sexuality. That I'm happy to connect there, and very open to. And I'm very mindful. I work with a select few people, and I don't chase clients. So if you really feel the pull and the call to go, there's something here I want to explore with Heather, then be very open about that, and send that message, and we'll connect. And happy to talk on anyone else's podcast as well. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a really good point, Heather. I mean, you don't take on a big volume of clients because you want to dig deep with the people that you do, and you build, just like me, I guess. I work with, bigger groups, but I mean, they become part of my fitness family. And I really feel that with you too, that people become part of your family. You only want to work with a few at a time so that you can, really dig deep with them. So really respect that in you. And so thanks so much for today. You've added a lot of value here, and we've had a lot of fun along the way as well. So thanks so much. And we will catch up next time with another juicy topic.
Thank you all. Thank you for listening. Thank you, Rob. It's been an absolute pleasure and an honor.
See you next time.
Bye.